An open letter to the Spectrum 10K team in response to their recent statement. The statement put out by Simon Baron-Cohen does nothing to make me think that there has been any real understanding of what actually autistic people are saying. First, the constant repetition of autistic people and their families. It is used 5 times. A family member of an autistic person is not an autistic person, unless obviously they are, in which case they would come under autistic people. Their views and experiences may be of greater weight than those of people who have no contact with autistic people, but they are not by a very long way, either on a par with or the same as those of actually autistic people. Neither, of course, are those of non-autistic researchers and academics. It is illuminating to note where their families are not included. It is 1. Referring to the concerns raised about the study. I have not yet seen any actually autistic group or spoken to any actually autistic person that is in favour of it, and most are very definitely opposed. 2. Describing co-occurring conditions, in other words, from a purely medical point of view. 3. In that ambiguous phrase, the autistic community. Autistic people make a sharp distinction between the autistic community and the autism community. Do you? To clarify, the autistic community contains only autistic people. It does not sound as if that is the meaning it has for you, since you say, consultation process with autistic people and their families, to make sure that the views of the whole autistic community are gathered. Non-autistic family members of autistic people are not part of the autistic community. You may say as often as you like that you have called for and will continue to call for inclusion, acceptance, dignity and respect for autistic people, ensuring that their human rights are guaranteed. The most basic type of inclusion is actual inclusion, and in that your actions do not match your words. You have not included actually autistic people in your core team. We are a small minority even in your advisory panel. You now say that you will set up a consultation with the autistic community. Even if that phrase does mean actually autistic people only, what effect do you envisage that that consultation will have? And if it does not, then nothing has changed. You would again be making a false equivalence between people who are actually autistic and people who aren't. Nothing about us without us. And as I have said before, this research has been designed almost entirely without us. And so I continue to ask the question I have already asked twice with no response, and which remains unaddressed in the statement. Why are there no actually autistic researchers or academics in the core team? I know that several eminent ones have already firmly dissociated themselves from the research, so that may be one reason. And why are there only 4 autistic people among the advisory panel? Your ambiguous statement that you now want to co-design a wider consultation process with autistic people and their families, that phrase again, to make sure that the views of the whole autistic community, what does that mean, are gathered systematically, properly considered and represented, does not mean a great deal to me. Are you going to redesign your survey? Are you going to reconsider the harvesting of DNA as a condition for participating? No. Are you going to bring together the huge number of actually autistic groups and people who are already shouting to be heard? I doubt it. Are you going to pause and note that actually autistic people are almost unanimously opposed to what you are doing? I would love to think so. I would also love to think that the harvested DNA would be totally safe from being used for damaging research. That cannot be ensured in perpetuity unless the DNA is destroyed after this research is completed, however well-intentioned Spectrum 10K may be. And finally, we are perfectly aware that co-occurring conditions and environmental factors are what make autism into a disability. And what actually autistic people want from research is ways to manage those conditions and those environmental factors. How to change society, what support and what adjustments are needed, how to improve our access to education, healthcare, including mental health care, and employment, which interventions are helpful and which harmful. Ultimately, maybe, what legislation should be passed. How, in other words, to level the playing field. That is where the funding needs to go. And that is where actually autistic researchers and academics are focusing their work. But without the funding, how much can we do? I look forward to the update on further consultation. If it is open to the whole autistic community, made up exclusively of autistic people and nobody else, then I might hope to be included in that consultation. If not, I will continue to feel that I want nothing to do with it.